What's something you did as a kid or teenager that still embarrasses you to this day? During a choir concert I had a solo, and my voice cracked terribly on the very last high note to end the song. All I heard was faint ahs and one dude dying of laughter. My mom walked in on me and my GF redressing ourselves after 6. We were 15 at the time. She said no words. When I went downstairs after all I could say was I don't know what you thought we were doing. But it wasn't 6. My time to shine. So, I wanted to go to a friend's house. This was elementary school, but when my friend and I approached my mom to ask permission, she told me that I had to go watch my brother's football game instead. To express my anger at her decision, I climbed to the top of the tree in our front yard and, with my mom and friend staring up at me in bewilderment, screamed for 30+ minutes straight. Just screeched at the top of my lungs. I've worked on my problem solving skills since then. Edit. Holy moly. Thanks to whoever gave me gold for this. One time during gym class in 5th grade we were all sitting in a circle listening to the teacher's instructions. I had the urge to fart and thought it'd be a nice little quiet one. Little did I know the slick floor we were sitting on amplified the toot so it sounded like I had pretty much it myself. Being a girl I was super embarrassed and when the entire class turned our way I immediately snapped my head to the side and stared at my best friend Shania while plugging my nose and making a disgusted face. She was then known as Shania Stank for the rest of the year. I had to buy her chocolate milk at lunch every day for weeks before she forgave me. She still never lets me live it down. Let's see. I obsessed over Eminem so much that it was even mentioned in the yearbook that I loved him. I had an Eminem t-shirt which I used to think made me pretty cool. And I did several presentations about Eminem, one in which I pretended that I was him and rapped in front of my whole class. Yo, I was a short awkward girl. Now, I just think he's okay and don't really listen to his music. I also took my Harry Potter obsession to an extreme degree. When I was a kid, probably between 5-10, I found out that bouncing on top of my hand in bed felt good. So good that I would do this every single night. I remember a couple times my parents would come in and tell me to stop grabbing at my pee-pee. So then I tried being all sneaky about it, because I knew my bed was loud as I bounced on it. In fact, I remember thinking I was sneaky enough to do it at sleepovers, and while sleeping next to my grandma. Looking back at those years, all I can think is that everyone ducking knew. My school was having one of those scared straight assemblies. They had brought in a bunch of former convicts who had served time to tell us about how horrible jail was. One lady told us about her jailmate Nancy. Nancy had apparently gone crazy a few years before and microwaved her child and fed him to her unsuspecting husband. I don't know why, but I just broke out in laughter. I had never heard of something so ridiculously horrible, and the whole room got silent and everyone stared at me while I chuckled to myself about the microwave baby. When I was in 5th grade I had a giant crush on the cutest boy in the class. His name was Ian. One day our table was talking about gel pens. This was the in thing, and he said he wanted a blue one. I said he could have mine. Unfortunately I didn't have a blue gel pen. So that night I forced my mom to take me to the neighborhood store to buy one so I could give it to him. So we go to the store. I find the perfect gel pen and we head to the register to check out. Guess who we ran into on the way? Ian. The sad part is that I don't even think he noticed. And he barely cared when I gave it to him the next day because he clearly did not have the same feelings towards me that I had for him. He went on to be the cutest boy in our middle school and arguably the cutest boy in our high school as well. I had many classes with him over the years and my crush didn't totally fade. But I don't think he ever really noticed me. Edit. Spelling. Edit 2. To all the confused Ians suddenly coming out of the woodwork. So far we've learned that this was not in West Palm Beach, Washington State, North Carolina, Street, Patrick's or Street, Anthony's schools, and I am not Annie or Kayla. Oh man. How do I say this? My friend was born without half an arm. I used to steal her prosthetic and hide it places. WTF was wrong with me? My brother, who is a darker than usual Hispanic, watched Roots in class when he was in middle school, and he comes home crying to my mom saying, "I don't want to be a slave." We still bring it up. It still always gets a laugh. Kindergarten. We were in a playhouse. It was a freaking cool playhouse. But I digress. We were just having fun playing around in the house. A bunch of us and one of my best friends, Cody, was sitting down facing the opposite direction with my other good friend Nathan. What happens next? I have no explanation for my actions. I was right behind him, stood up, sat and placed my butt right on his head and farted on it. I could feel the vibration surround his scalp and escape through my cheeks. He of course yelled and was like gross. Long story short, I had to sit on the thinking chair for some time. I thought it would be funny, but everybody thought I was gross. God, I was an awkward kid. When I was 15 and had lost my virginity, I wouldn't shut up about it. I talked about it in detail to 2 seniors in my creative writing class. I barely knew them. In 8th grade I'd write deep song lyrics on my math papers. My teacher thought I had a crush on him. All throughout elementary school I was the kid who cried at everything. When I was maybe 12 or 13, me and my mom were using an automated checkout machine at the grocery store. It was ducking up. So I loudly said, "This machine can eat me." I didn't know what it meant, but I heard it in a movie. And lastly, probably one of my worst moments. At 14, while making out with my first boyfriend, my mind drifted off to Step Brother since I'd watched it the day before. Out of ducking nowhere I whisper, "I want you out of my ducking house" to him. We broke up shortly after that. When I was 4 or 3, my father took the family to a soccer game that he was reffing at, and well, I had to take a dump. I asked my brother where the toilet was and he pointed me to the restroom. I walked in and there was spiders' webs in the stall, and well, I was scared of spiders, so I did the only thing possible. I went back to the benches and took a crap under them. Yes, people were sitting above of me. They stopped the game and announced over the intercom, "Whoever's kid is taking a dump under the bleachers, please get him." My dad made eye contact with me. He told my sister to get me and go to the car. He never took us out after, even to this day. TLDR. To crap under bleachers during soccer game. Father disowned me and never took the family out again. I told a good one yesterday about a ladybug ring when I was in 2nd grade. But the next best one has to be when I was in high school and I was out on what I think was a date with this girl. We went to the zoo and then grabbed some food at some place. Afterwards, we had to split up in order to get our trains that were going in the opposite direction. I awkwardly tried to lean in for a kiss while she went in to hug me, and I ended up headbutting her in the face and her nose started bleeding. I was embarrassed as duck, so I just asked, "Are you okay?" And when she said, "I think so," I just waved goodbye and ran into the train station. I forgot to wear pants in kindergarten one day, winter time. Put on my long johns and snowpants. Everyone complimented my pants, but I knew they were lying. Bastards. I wanted to see a crush of mine. I was 12-13. So I started going around the block, walking back and forth in hopes for a chance encounter. Turns out he is at his neighbor across the street, on the porch, and sees me walking in front of his house 20 times in 1 hour. Yeah, this is the same guy I once asked what a hand job was. I read it in a book and had no idea. This was before the web. One time when I was 14, I tried to masturbate in the car on the way to grandma's house. I told my mother that I wished we all would just die so that I could meet this Jesus that she keeps talking about. In 8th grade English class, we were reading some book about an autistic kid and a dog he had, and my teacher called on me to do some reading out loud because she knew I wasn't paying attention to the discussion. And when I read the word retarded, my voice for some reason choked up and let out the awkwardest half chuckle half gasp. Then I broke out in laughter in front of the class. Duck me. Okay. 1. My sister had a stuffed white wolf, and I was playing vet and drew a butthole on it and colored it red. WTF. 2. I recorded me and my friend dancing to Britney Spears' Slave for You when we were 8 or 9. It still exists on VHS in my house somewhere. Yeah. 3. Peed myself when I was line leader in 3rd grade. When I was at summer camp, I was probably 8. I told one of the male counselors at lunch that I could pick him up. I got behind him, bent my knees, grabbed my hands around him and lifted with such force I still remember what his balls felt like when I pushed them back inside his body. I got him off the ground. That's for sure. Horrifyingly embarrassing, but the adults tried to be as nice as possible about it. It was an accident. TLDR. Tried to pick up my camp counselor. Squashed his baby maker. At a chorus competition, we were about to be judged for sight reading unfamiliar music. Our director chose the only black student among us to pass out the sheet music in a tense room before the judges, parents and 50+ students. I yelled token black, thinking it would get a laugh. It did not. Was in Sunday school. Asked to describe Jesus in one word. Promiscuous. Thought it had a similar meaning to mysterious. Promiscuous girl had also just come out, so every other 13-year-old knew what it meant. We were doing that thing in middle school where we were reading a book, and after every paragraph the next kid would start reading. I counted to which paragraph I was going to be reading, and immediately my stomach lurched. I don't remember the book or the author, but the passage went something like this. I love big, juicy pickles. I love to suck the juice off of them. And an entire paragraph about pickles. I made it one sentence in before I fell out of my chair laughing. I had to be sent outside because every few minutes I'd burst out laughing. TLDR. I laughed at pickles. Edit. I believe the book is called The Key. I'm not sure whether this is true or not, but it's the only book I remember reading in that class. I took up skirt shots of women in GTA San Andreas because I thought that's what CJ would have wanted. I didn't realize till 2 years later that those pictures saved to a file in the computer. Edit. I don't have the files anymore. When I was 7, just after my sister was born, I remember being in a Jack in the Box with my mother, grandmother, little brother, and the baby. I wanted attention and I thought I'd figured out a trick to get my mother to pick me up and coddle me. I'll tell her I'm gassy. Every time the baby is gassy she picked her up and coddles her. I started saying real loud, "Mom, I'm gassy. I'm really gassy." My grandmother and my mother started shushing me and I got louder, "WHHHHY. I'm really gassy." I started to put the wine on. "Moo, I'm gassy." Their shushes got really intense and I started to wonder what it was that I was saying that was embarrassing them. When the baby is gassy it's adorable. Why isn't it adorable for me to be gassy? I'm adorable too. Then I looked behind me and saw a whole table of young adults, probably in their very early 20s, laughing their asses off at me. I had no idea why they were laughing, but I knew they were laughing at me. As I walked by, one of them told me to fart. I totally didn't get it and ran to my mother. I'm not sure when it hit me what I had done, whether it was days later or years later, but when it did, oh my god. You can't imagine, but I still sometimes lie in bed at night and cringe thinking about it. Edit. Hey, thanks for the gold. You are tops. I did a dance routine called the 90-second workout for the talent show in 5th grade to Backstreet Boys whilst dressed in a soccer outfit. I am a straight male. 1. I was the dinosaur expert of my 1st grade class, though it did get me a nerdy boyfriend. 2. I posted pictures with that Facebook app of myself in a short black wig, hoodie and wrote emo with lightning bolts next to it. Thought I was cool. Back in high school I dressed goth. Not just goth. Slutty. Red plaid miniskirt. Black button down. Red bra. Black fishnets. And 6-inch high hooker boots. I still have those boots. Another thing. I had a teacher who ended up calling me at 3 in the morning right after I graduated. Drunk. Asked me if I touched myself. I still can't look that man in the eye. Ugh. I used to listen to Ike. I used to masturbate in my car seat. I don't even know how it started, but it continued until my mom told me it was a private thing and shouldn't be done. I would poop on the playground like an animal. Multiple times at a movie theater when I was around 8-12 I would go up to people who were about to enter the Harry Potter movies or R-rated movies and ask them if they were Christian. If they said they were, then I would keep pressing the issue because in my mind surely they weren't if they were seeing things like that. That was one of the few things I was never punished for, despite it possibly being the worst thing I ever repeatedly did in public. If I was older I probably would have been kicked out of the theater for harassing the other customers. Crapped my pants in the middle of the mall when I was 12. My parents and I went shopping. We made a quick stop at the food court. I chose KFC. No big deal. Right? Wrong? 12-year-old me had a soft stomach. The KFC turned my insides into a racetrack. The food flew through me like it was trying to set a new record on the Nürburgring. SP. I'm as far from the bathrooms as you can get a few minutes later. It's coming. I feel it. I run. I get halfway there and it starts. I can't stop it. I'm wearing shorts. It runs down my leg. I'm being stared at as I keep running. I get the toilet. It's too late. It's a salvage job now. Try to clean up as best I can and get out. Easily the most embarrassing. Edit. Food court. Not good court. It's never a good court. After one of the good touch bad touch demonstrations with the dolls, they asked if we would let our babysitter touch us for $20. I said no, but I would for $1,000. They called my parents and told them. I was one of those smarmy assholes that would only do things that none of my friends were doing. So when everyone else was buying clothes from Abercrombie and American Eagle and listening to the Black Eyed Peas and Britney Spears, I was being my little contrarian self. I wasn't nearly as cool as I thought I was, though, because I bought my clothes from Walmart and I thought that Green Day was totally not mainstream. So that's pretty embarrassing in retrospect. My friend still teases me about my adamant belief in Santa. I stopped believing in 8th grade.